Okay, the harvest is done. Now it's time to pick and clean. Y'all come along. Hey y'all. So after you harvest the greens, this is what my grandma would call picking the greens, where we take the stem out, kind of like that. And back in the day, we throw that away, but since we have chickens, chickens get that, and then the greens get put in something else. And just hold on a second, and I'm gonna show you what the next step is after picking and looking. I mean, we're gonna wash them, but I always like to look, because aphids can hide, and you just never know. All right, y'all hold on. So this is the next step, washing the greens. And when I typically have this many, I'll do them outside like I'm doing them now. But if I don't have, quite this many, I could do it in the house in the sink. But my next project for Dre in the garden is to get him to create a wash station for me, so that I can do this outside right after I harvest and not ever have to bring them in the house. So we gotta wash them. And a lot of people use, I've seen people use baking soda, salt, vinegar, especially with like salad greens like this. But I don't need any of that with mine because, well, several reasons. I don't spray them with anything. I know what fertilizer I put on them. Mine are not in ground, they're in raised beds, so they don't get very dirty and a lot of sand and grit in them. So I'm really just kind of rinsing off anything that might be there, but nothing compared to if I would buy them from a store or even from a farmer's market. The only time I wouldn't do this if I bought them from a farmer's market is if I know the farmer and I know what they're using. But typically, I'm only gonna casually clean them when they come from my backyard. Anything else, I'm gonna do my due diligence in getting them clean. And I know this seems old school, outside washing greens, but this is how I learned to do it. This is how my grandma did it. This is how my mama did it. This is how my stepmom did it. My aunties, even my uncles that cooked, my daddy. Yeah, so, and I will, for my greens, these are for mine that I just harvested out of my garden yesterday. These are mine, remember? I'll only do this. For the sake of this video, I'm gonna do it twice. Because I actually, when I brought them in yesterday, because I knew I wasn't going to cook them until today, I went ahead and rinsed them off in cold water and let them sit in my sink overnight. So they kind of had a wash, but for video's sake, I'm gonna wash them twice. I'm gonna wash them twice. So don't count me out yet. And I have well water, so I love that, because I'm not washing them in treated water like if you have city water, which is fine if you do, but I've just never liked to do that. I would use I would let my city water sit for a little while, or I would use bottled water to wash my greens before I started gardening. And you see how many greens I have, right? We're gonna see at the end of this video how much I was able to get, because these are gonna cook down, like really cook down. It's gonna be crazy how much they cook down and what I'll end up with. Okay, so y'all hold on. I'm gonna start the second wash. Like I said, I have well water, so I'm not worried about any chemicals or any treatments that are in this water. I'm just rinsing them off. I know where they came from. I know what was on them. Like I just said, I'm just washing them off, getting them ready to go into the pot. And this is going to be the second and final wash for this batch. See what's on there. Thought I saw something, but nope, it's a hole. Wait a minute. Yes, I did. That one's going to the chickens. And I just try to look as I'm washing. I look as I'm picking. You just saw me pick them. And I also look as I'm washing. As I'm washing these, you say, what are you looking for? I'm looking for if there's any blemish on the leaf or anything that I just don't want to cook in my pot. And even some bugs might still be on here. But usually with mine, I know what, well, I don't know all of it, but for the most part, because I picked them, I looked at them I harvested them. I looked at them when I harvested them. I picked them or destemmed them. I looked at them when I did that. And I'm looking at them as I'm washing them. So, but this is from my backyard. I'm like the Brook Farmer now. Don't go quoting me on how I do this, because it may not be how you do it or how you need to do it. You clean your greens the way you typically clean them. So I don't want to get blamed for you eating dirt, or eating bugs. Don't do it like I do it. Do it how it's gonna work for you. And like I said, if I didn't have this many, I wouldn't be doing it out here. I'd be doing it inside in my kitchen sink. But I'm a country girl, y'all. This is what country girls do. They clean greens outside. Now, would I be doing this if it's, super cold? No. But today, it's a nice day. So, that's going to be my final wash, y'all. And get them out of this water and take these babies in the house and put them in the pot. Y'all meet me in the house.
Veggie garden, seeds to sow. Veggie garden, all in a row.
Okay, now it's time for them to go into this pot of boiling water. I used seasoning meat, the same kind of seasoning meat that my grandma used, and all of the women and men that cooked in my childhood and in my life. This is who I learned from. Most recently, my sisters, mainly Angie and Cassandra, because Shell. Don't tell her I said it. But yeah, a lot of people don't use pork, which is fine. You don't have to use pork. You can just use whatever seasoning that you desire. And if you're wondering, well, why don't you just saute these up? I do. I do that during the week. But for a Sunday meal like this, I like good Southern style, boil them down to almost nothing greens. And that's what I'm doing today. So I used pork seasoning meat. I'll try to take a picture of the packet. I used 3 different ones because I like a certain taste. So I'm going to start to put these in the pot. Well, let me take these pieces of meat out first. And they've been boiling probably an hour or 2. A lot of people use smoked turkey, which is fine. Whatever taste you desire, that's the seasoning that you use. I used black pepper. I didn't use any salt because 2 pieces of my seasoning meat were salted already, so that's what I used to salt it with. I used my own crushed red pepper. This is from my peppers that I've been harvesting all summer. And of course, these greens, you know where they came from. And we just start to drop them in. Y'all guess how much you think I'll get from this bowl. It's a pretty big bowl. Take a guess at how much you think I'll yield after they all cook down. I'm gonna say about maybe a medium bowl. So let me know in the comments, a medium bowl, large bowl, or small bowl. Which one do you think? These are turnip, mustard, and henpeck, and kale. That's what's going in. And because they really are still very tender, frost hadn't hit them yet, but they're still very tender. They probably won't cook any longer than 35, 40 minutes at most. And something else that I do is after I cook these, I save the juice for the next batch of greens. And my grandma and those called it, the juice that I'm talking about, they called it pot liquor. So I save the pot liquor and I put it in a container and I freeze it. And so the next time that I'm ready to cook greens, I'm going to use the same seasoning meat, but maybe not as much, because I will have a starter. It's kind of like a starter for making sourdough bread. I keep a starter so that I start with that liquid when I cook my next batch of greens. Not anything I'm telling you to do, it's just something I do, and it just makes your next batch of greens that much more seasoned. And I do this every year. The only reason I didn't have a starter for these is because I used it in the last one that I used last year. My container, well, my jug had a hole in it, and so it leaked all my goodness out. Sad state of affairs, but this is me starting over. Okay. They're all in, and you can see, well, maybe you can't. Let me show you. This big bowl, let's see what size is this bowl. It was full. This is, well, it doesn't say, but it's huge. This bowl has already cooked down to this. I think this is a 12-quart Biltmore heavy bottom pot. So you can just about imagine how much more they're gonna cook down as they cook. So I'll bring y'all back when they're done. Okay, so that's the final product. I would say we got I guess I would say a medium bowl. We got enough for at least 2 meals.